Like all members of this House, I was saddened and sickened at the far-right thugs who came to London this weekend on a so-called mission to protect the statue of Sir Winston Churchill, claiming to want to protect our country's heritage, and yet failing to understand that our country's heritage is founded upon a set of shared values: tolerance, respect for people and property, adherence to the rule of law. And those thugs, far from protecting our heritage, did all that they could to destroy and undermine those values. There is no place for their sickening conduct and hate in our society. They were violent, they were aggressive and abusive towards police officers. They were patently racist. It is right that a good number have been arrested. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would now like to give the House the latest operational update from the police. In total, over 210,000 people have attended demonstrations across the country following the death of George Floyd. At least 160 protests took place this weekend, with the vast majority passing peacefully. But counter-demonstrations sparked ugly scenes. On Saturday, 2,000 people attended counter-protests in Westminster, with eruptions of violence throughout the day. Racists and far-right hooligans clashed with the police, and fights broke out. Smoke bombs, glass bottles were lobbied at the police in shameful scenes. 38 officers were hurt across the country this weekend as they were kicked, punched, or pelted with missiles. On Saturday alone, there were 137 arrests for offences including assaults on officers, violent disorder, breaches of the peace, possessions of offensive weapons and Class A drugs, and drunk and disorderly behaviour. In total, at least 100 officers have now been injured, as well as 3 police horses and 1 police dog, and at least 280 arrests have been made. As this ugly operational picture demonstrates, many of the so-called protesters came with the deliberate intent of causing harm to those around them and to police officers. This hooliganism is utterly indefensible. There can be no excuse for pelting police officers with missiles. And of all the dreadful images to emerge from this weekend, the one of a man desecrating the plaque of PC Keith Palmer was the most abhorrent. PC Keith Palmer served our country in so many ways, having first served in our armed forces. He then came to this place and made the ultimate sacrifice during a terror attack at the heart of our democracy. I know that the whole House will join me in sending our thoughts to his family, his colleagues and friends. He will never be forgotten. As I said last week, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when I became Home Secretary, I vowed to stand with the brave men and women of our police, and to stand for law and order, and to stand against the terrorists, the thugs, the criminals who threaten people, towns and communities. A pledge that I'm unapologetic to reiterate once again in this House today. Because sadly, backing our world-class police has never been more important. The scenes of violence and disorder that we have seen in recent weeks have only underlined the challenges that they face. We ask our frontline police officers to do the most difficult of jobs. These courageous men and women run towards danger so that we don't have to. They put their own lives on the line to protect us, to protect the public. They take on the drug dealers, the murderers, and the violent criminals every single day to keep our streets safe. They uphold the rule of law and give us the security and freedom to live our lives as we choose. So I remain saddened at the lack of respect being shown to our brave officers by a small minority of people. And this senseless violence is taking a huge toll on our police. On Friday, I spoke to officers from forces in England and Wales who had been attacked in the line of duty to hear at first hand about their own devastating impact upon them and also upon their loved ones. Their accounts have only strengthened my resolve to step up the support for our police, because an attack on our brave police is an attack on us all. I refuse to allow our outstanding officers to become society's punchbag. And I refuse to allow monuments to heroes who served their country to be vandalised and desecrated. So this government, Mr Deputy Speaker, is considering all options to stop those who seek to attack these emblems of our national sacrifice and pride, including the proposed desecration of war memorial bills. And I can confirm that my right honourable friend, the Justice Secretary, is meeting with the honourable members for Stoke-on-Trent North and Bracknell this afternoon to take this forward. And my message today is a simple one. Actions have consequences. I want to see these vicious individuals held to account for the violence and the criminality that they perpetrate. I want to see them arrested and brought to justice. Finally, Mr Deputy Speaker, I will turn to the unprecedented national health crisis we find ourselves in. Coronavirus has tragically taken the lives of over 40,000 people in our country. To protect us all and to stop the spread of this deadly disease, any large gatherings of people remain unlawful. So this severe public health risk forces me again to continue to urge the public not to attend future gatherings or protests. If you do so, you are putting your loved ones at risk. Mr Deputy Speaker, it is clear that the far-right thugs who descended on London at the weekend with the intent to cause harm shamed themselves with some abusive and violent conduct. They were violent, they were abusive and aggressive towards the police. They were racist, and there are no excuses for this behaviour. So to the quiet, law-abiding majority who continue to be appalled by this violence and who have continued to live their lives within the rules throughout this pandemic, I completely hear their anger with the scenes that they have seen on our streets. To the police who continue to be subjected to the most dreadful abuse, you have my full backing as you act proportionately, fairly and courageously to maintain law and order. And to the criminals, I simply reiterate my earlier remarks. Your behaviour is shameful. No matter who you are, if you have broken the law, you will face justice. I commend this statement to the House.